Well, that's quite the content warning. It's been a minute. Let's play this demo for a game about Yuri vampires. A Tithe in Blood. Press any button or click anywhere to begin. Yep, that's a Yuri game. I'll take it. I don't know how long the demo is. I'm just gonna go until we get there, so let's try and reach the end. God, some good art though. The flowers of summer shall wither, the leaves of autumn shall fall. Against a transient world we are doomed to defiance, to the eternal folly of man. And so the winter's snow falls. Whoa, it turned red. A terrible chill hangs in the air, the season proving bitter as it so often is here. On this cold day, a great throng of students slowly shuffles through the piled snow of the university's grounds, the day's lectures finally over. Some gossip freely with friends, while others fawn over their partners. Most, however, stroll silently. Amidst the sea of people walks one unremarkable student among many. It went without saying that I'd go to university. I was called smart, clever, intelligent. I quietly liked the praise, and saw no reason to fight others' ambitions for me. As long as people told me I was doing well, I hardly cared what I did. I wouldn't say I had a career in mind, nor any particular plan for the future. I barely chose this way of life at all. I simply fell into it. Things happened around me, and I followed the path. Things happened around me, and I followed the path of least resistance. I never considered what would happen if I had to think for myself. Feels. The train rattles and shakes as it trundles along the desolate city outskirts, the air inside stifling from the heaters. The seats always fill before I get on, so standing for the awkwardly long ride has become normal by now. With little else to do, I stare out the train doors. My thoughts soon turn inward, as they so often do in quiet moments. Oh, that's nice. Look, I don't have my cursor available so you guys can't see, but the train handles move and stuff just a little bit. Nice little effect there, the door's shaking. Not needing to study a day of high school has paradoxically made university all the worse. Faced with more difficult problems, and never having needed to work at understanding something before me, I found myself restless. One might turn to friends for support, but my nature seems to drive others away. I always got on better with teachers than other students in any case. The city outside becomes distant, its glass buildings reflecting a gray sky. The only color to be seen is that of the bright red Sapporo TV tower, its wire frame girders beaming through the white snow. Oh, Sapporo. Never actually been. Not having traveled to the mainland, it's difficult to view life here in an objective sense. That remoteness hasn't hurt the city, though, having every convenience one could hope for despite its distance from Tokyo. The snow season has brought the annual increase in tourists with it, a topic of some debate given the fuss and crowding they cause. The hotels and snowfields continue their trade, though. As well, Sapporo may be the capital of Hokkaido, their money is still sorely needed. Cranes work day and night to build new apartments, the city's population ever rising. The bustling train station is one of the most modern in the country, a landmark of glass outside and high technology inside, even if the trains themselves are kept in eerily perfect condition, as if every trip were the first of the day. Sapporo never stops changing in order to keep up, as if locked in a rivalry with Toko's modernity. Is any of this right? I couldn't really say. Like me, everyone keeps going about their day in this ever-changing city, even as the past disappears around us for more modern developments, new businesses, and more money. That place now passing by the train window is where I was born and where I expect to die. Perhaps it's fate that I live in this grayscale city, so fitting it is for someone like me. Aw. Having slipped off my shoes, the pitter of feet on wood echoes about as I enter the spacious living room. A flimsy plastic bag carries dinner from the nearby convenience store in one hand, while the well-worn messenger bag for school remains strapped over my shoulder. As my eyes adjust to the light, a familiar unease comes over me, the unease of true solitude. A haunting silence hangs in the air, the room's size only magnifying the effect. Few things provoke this unsettling feeling so deeply as an empty house which shouldn't be. With my money largely going toward university fees and keeping the house, most of the rooms have been neglected. The table before me might appear a stately wooden construction, but the lie is exposed by the veneer having flaked off a corner, exposing cheap particle board. I'll go to a furniture store and replace it sometime, I think to myself, as I hang my coat and bag. Of course, sometime is vague enough that I can rationalize away that time never coming. With the food quickly growing colder, the house itself being little warmer than outside, I settle myself down on the cushion. The air soon fills with the studied and monotonous voice of a television news presenter as I begin to eat. The lukewarm rice curry dish is, for better or worse, consistent in the way convenience store food usually is. The same goes for the bitter green tea which washes it down. The occasional click of chopsticks is all that serves to punctuate the uninteresting news report, the man's voice rattling off the details of another traffic accident from the snow-covered roads. A routine day, much like any other this year. My attention beginning to drift from the disinterest, my eyes settle on the cardboard box to the side of the table. I half-heartedly consider throwing it away, but like most, I decide to use it for storage. For what and when, I hardly know. It still has the shipping label attached, now that I look at it. To think that one thoughtless order of an otherwise nondescript book from some second-hand store would change so much of my life. The idle thought confirms my plans for the evening. Putting myself to work in order to calm my nerves, I turn off the television and sort the remnants of dinner into burnable and recyclable trash. With that, I take a long breath and head to the study. Even as I walk up the stairs, I become acutely aware of the sensation from the bandages on my left arm, a now permanent reminder of this grim pastime. A lavish room is revealed as I enter, the musty smell of books and old furniture hanging in the air. The haphazard collection of antiques and oddities is the result of a year haunting local antique stores and online marketplaces. Anything to take my mind off what was happening around me. Is that blood everywhere? My eyes move down to the floor. What started as a pleasant dark wood is now blighted with remnants of dried blood. The stains run deep, no matter how hard I've tried to clean it. The sight going unnoticed by anyone else is one of the few advantages to living alone. Stepping around the faded remnants of a chalk between the wood panels, I stride over to my desk. Notebooks full of translation notes lie to one side, while a time-worn leather-bound book lays open on the other. It's likely the oldest object for many miles around, and treated accordingly. Note assortite sulla natura della magia del sangue. Assorted notes on the nature of blood magic. Ooh, that's not good. Blood magic. Not the best kind of magic to dabble in. The title alone made me curious, a curiosity which soon developed into obsession. Before long, that obsession turned from the intellectual to the practical. Practical blood magic. With some reverence, I carefully leaf through the pages. The words of the author, Juan Isabella de Mora, speak across the ages as I scan the page. Translating the Italian text has been slow going, not helped by its archaic form, but what progress I've made has yielded good results. Rather, it's been my body which has slowed me more than anything else. Looking between the floor and book several times, I attempt to visualize the patterns needed to replicate Isabella's experiments. The glyphs and patterns are strange and complex, more than one attempt ending in dismal failure. Realizing I've begun to draw this out to avoid the necessary pain for as long as possible, I set the book down at its open page and set about the preparations. Taking a piece of chalk from the pile of seemingly unrelated items on my desk, I kneel down and begin to retrace the intricate plans detailed in the book's pages, every so often standing to consult the sketches I'm using as guides. There's an odd beauty to the intricate patterns slowly appearing on the floor. One concentric ring is followed by another, mysterious symbols and figures filling the spaces between them. Isabella's process of experimentation and discovery, the result of a great mind imprisoned by her family, has been fascinating to uncover page by page as my translation progressed. Trying to replicate her results would soon prove even more intriguing. Slowly but surely, the detailing comes to an end and the last of the lines meet. Coming to my feet, I set the chalk back down and set about the more distasteful side of the process. My heart's racing. I pull my left sleeve to well above the elbow, revealing the blotchy, cream-colored bandages stretching down a good portion of my arm. There's a strange feeling in keeping something hidden, despite being surrounded by oblivious others. Little by little, I unravel the dressing, leaving enough at the top of my arm to avoid it falling. As the skin beneath is revealed, one dark red line after another bites the pale flesh around it. Some have already scarred, soreness and itching reminding me of their presence. This is brutal. Oh, this is brutal. Reaching to the desk, I take my knife in hand. Never text you want to read. Reaching to the desk, I take my knife in hand. That's not the best. The blade is nondescript by choice, brought along with random items I didn't need to avoid arousing suspicion. Bringing it to my arm, I hover above a spot below the last cut, in hopes of not interfering with its healing. Oh, I don't like it. My breathing becomes heavy as the knife settles against the skin. The sound of my breathing is maddeningly loud as it reverberates around the room, my breaths becoming ragged and knuckles whitening as I clutch the knife's cold metal handle in my shaking palm. Oh man, the only thing that could make this worse is if, it was a minigame. Please don't make it a minigame. I dearly hoped this inhumane act against myself would become more natural, but even now my instincts scream at me to stop. Instinct isn't so easily snuffed out. As the moon's light glints off the coldly utilitarian blade, I press the tip of the knife to the side of my arm. Okay. In one practiced motion, I overcome my body's pleading and force myself to slice the blade across my upper arm. Pain lances through my body and mind, the gritting of my teeth the only thing stopping my painful whimpers from escaping. The tool's job done, I throw it to the ground and clutch my arm tightly. Dark crimson fluid seeps from the open wound, soon flowing freely down my arm and over my hand. Crouching down, I put myself to work to pull what attention I can from the wound. Ouch. Putting my hand out before me, I straighten my index and middle fingers as thick, warm blood begins to drip from them. Trying my best to minimize my nervous shaking, the chalk outlines soon turn red as I trace them out at a slow but steady pace. I have to take this slowly, I remind myself. My body can't afford to do this often, every attempt meaning days of recovery. I'm already weak, and the winter's efforts hardly help. As the last of the white chalk turns to a wine-dark red, I stand once more and glance about. The moonlight reflects off the fresh blood, a slow trickle still dropping to the floor from my arm. A certain dissonance strikes me, between the messy red spatters strewn across the floor and the intricate Byzantine patterns they form. The panic thought of this being some descent into madness briefly passes my mind. What madman, what crazed murderer could stand in such a spectacle and think themselves sane? Rather than fear such thoughts, I treasure them as I close my eyes shut. Their confirmation that I've not yet lost my mind. I can still see this from the outside. I'm still human. As the book says, I concentrate on imagining the symbols and patterns around me in my mind. My thoughts begin to shift and ebb, my nerves somehow becoming swept along in the strangely calming sensation. As if caught in a river, my thoughts begin to flow. Rather than fight it, as I first did, I allow the slow and uneasy trickle to take me, surrendering to the movements in my mind. Some are pleasant, others horrendous, but all prove fleeting and impermanent. What was a river soon becomes a torrent, identifiable memories and concepts becoming abstract and indistinct. Thoughts, feelings, sensations, all merge together in a surging rush, all physical sense of my body long gone as every emotion pours through me at once. In the swirling and flowing mass, the bedrock below it all begins to sway in the swelling flood. My sense of self nudges and rocks at first, held by the deepest roots, yet little by little, against the surging flood, The soft grass gently presses against my cheek, the dew of early morning contrasting to the sun's warmth. My eyes slowly open, but my body feels too heavy to move. Far from being unexpected, it's now a familiar feeling. My mind too dulled to do anything more, I silently watch the flowers before me gently sway in the breeze, while birds squawk in the far distance. It's all so different and so warm. As if waking from a terribly long sleep, I wearily pick myself up, and my senses slowly return. A cloudless blue sky hangs above, with the lush green of the unkempt forest surrounding me. It's all so idyllic. Here, there's no bright red tower piercing a sullen sky. The world which stretches out before me couldn't be farther from the hustle and bustle of the city I've left. The warmth of spring, and its many scents, confuses my senses, jarred by the shift from the cold winter's night that I left. A gentle breeze flows over me while I gaze at the swaying fields. The only blemish on the scene is a column of faint smoke from workshops in the far distance, peeking above the tree canopies. What I've managed to do finally becomes clear as my dulled mind slowly recoups itself. The magic worked. I thoughtlessly say the words to nobody in particular, the nature of what I've done no less surreal to me now than the scant few other times I've successfully managed it. Unfortunately, my senses returning to me also means that pain is among them. I quickly set about rebinding my bandages, lest anyone here see the scars now disfiguring my forearm. Groaning from the pain, I focus on making sure they're done tight and firm before fixing the ends once more. As much for myself as any other, I roll my sleeve back down afterwards to avoid the temptation to look. Adjusting my glasses and dusting myself off with my uninjured arm, I set off towards the faint pillar of smoke, the only visible mark of the town ahead. The town of Sapporo. She's a time traveler. An empty horse-drawn tram trundles along past my field of vision, the steed's hunchbacked owner patiently letting it trot along at a leisurely pace. He pays me little heed as they pass, the clatter of hooves blending with the sounds of passers-by. The shadows are small, so it must be around noon. The flow of time here always throws me off. As I so often do when I come to this place, I find myself just watching, strolling through as if in a daze, caught up in observing this strange and foreign world. Yet this foreign-feeling world couldn't be closer to my own. For reasons unknown, the magic I've been attempting, transference, has reliably transported me here. When I should be in some other country, I instead arrive in the same location but a century ago. The strangely dressed newcomer soon lost her novelty to the people here, few giving me so much as a passing glance as they go about their day. Words can't express how glad I am for the attention fading. Perhaps I should be glad it's just the Meiji era. My modern clothing would be just another strange foreign dress to them. Some of those walking before me mix Japanese and Western fashion styles even now, to varying degrees of success. A couple of children run by, happily chasing one another along the street. It all feels so different to the grayscale photos and dry documentaries about the Meiji era, or about history at all. The people here feel alive and varied, from the dour to the cheerful. My idle stroll comes to an end as I reach my usual destination. Outside, the kabuki venue stands the brightest person here, happily seeing off someone she'd been chatting to before noticing my arrival. I see we have a visitor. Welcome back, Miss Asakawa. Hello, Lady Yasue. You look well, as always. I've told you before, Yasue is perfectly fine. I'm glad to drop the formalities around at least one person. Then, just Honoka is alright too. Despite my best efforts, I wilt before her sunny disposition as usual. I'm hardly even able to make eye contact as I mumble my reply. Yasue takes the comment in stride, her cheeks hinting at the smile hiding behind her fan. My arm suddenly aches from my wound, causing me to reflexively reach over and clutch it. Such pain is a constant reminder of the cost to get here. The tithe a normal person has to pay, to mimic the magic afforded to mages. True mages, such as Yasue. Her magic is no less amazing to watch now as when I first saw it, with mages so few in number in the normal world, and those that do exist keeping a low profile. I'm in some ways blessed to meet one who uses their abilities so openly. Are you alright? I'm fine, just tired. Accepting my waving off of her concern, Yasue turns to begin walking, casting a glance behind her to invite me. I quickly skip up alongside as she begins to slowly stroll the streets, stealing the occasional furtive glance at the woman as we go. While she's a pretty person in general, I've never quite been able to place her age. I might be terrible at guessing such things normally, but it's her hair which throws me off entirely. I'd call it bleached white, but it looks natural, despite her youthful face. Finding myself self-conscious, I run a hand through my bangs to neaten them, before adjusting my glasses just so. I'm not particularly good at things like fashion, but for this one person, I want to put in some kind of effort. Where are you headed? Nowhere in particular. The day's performance is over, so I thought to have a stroll to wind down. Well, I appreciate the company. Do tell me if you tire. I'm well aware you try to hide it, but I have noticed the toll these adventures take on you. She does her best to make the remarks as gently as possible, but her point is made. I've been hoping she wasn't troubled over such things, but it's hardly the first time she's seen right through me. It all feels so surreal. It's hard to believe this is how my own city looked a century ago. I'm sure we must all look rather quaint to someone so far in the future. What brought on this line of thought? Just thinking back to when I first arrived here. You were like a little lost lamb back then, not quite the image of who I thought might find this place. Yasue punctuates her observation with a churlish laugh, raising my spirits. As we head onto a side street, Yasue stops to greet a friendly hauler walking by. The man happily begins to chat as he adjusts the yoke across his broad shoulders, sacks of goods tied to either end. Without wanting to intrude, I'm left thinking back to my first arrival here. I stumbled about in the grips of terror for some time, wandering into the town knowing nothing of where I was or how to escape. Nearly frozen in fright, I slinked along the side of the streets, onlookers struck at the bizarre clothing I wore compared to them. How fortunate I was for some children to run and fetch Yasue. When she first caught sight of me, I wondered which of the two of us was the more surprised. She sensed I was a different time than the others and took me under her wing without a second thought. Even now, I still feel like her lamb. She doesn't know the scene in my world which led to that first journey, though. I wonder if she'd think differently of me for it. As the hauler shuffles off and we start walking once more, Yasue speaks up. Few of our conversations are started by me, though she seems unperturbed by this. How have you been? You spoke of life being peaceful? Peaceful, I suppose so. Things are largely the same as ever. I go to university, come home, eat dinner, and sleep. As for you, this world only contains Sapporo and its people, right? Yasue nods solemnly. I dislike reminding her of the fact, but I have only the most vague understanding of such things. When we were sealed away all those years ago, this world became an unchanging one. It's all it ever will be for us, I suppose. Well, until you arrived, imagine my shock to have someone from the real world arrive after so long. She giggles once more, smiling to herself at the memory. How easily she laughs off her own past awkwardness. The first impression I had of Yasue was perhaps the expected one. So many photos blend together of the people in formal outfits, stiff poses, and stern, serious faces. While they may try to humanize history in school, there's only so much a museum trip or classroom lecture can do. My preconceptions would be dispelled in moments. In so many ways, she juxtaposed her ladylike properness with a carefree spirit. Her hair is lavishly cared for, yet flows freely rather than being tied up. Her speech is archaic and uses long obsolete words, only for her to chat naturally and openly. She dresses formally, yet gestures widely and wears her emotions on her sleeve. I know full well I'll be going over every conversation we have in my head for days, if not weeks, to come, angsting over every misstep or hesitation and overthinking every expression or pause. Yet Yasue will do no such thing. Everything flows off her. It's graceful in a manner, albeit not quite in the same way I expected that word to be used for someone of an era barely past samurai and daimyo. Sorry if I'm a disappointment. I could save you from this world, I would. If I could save you from this world, I would. You may not be a grand mage, but I'm glad to have met you. Perhaps it's for the better, that the first to come here would be someone like you. Not knowing how to best to react to her praise, I bashfully look away. My driving desire to be complimented is one of my uglier traits. I can only hope it's one of the few things Yasue hasn't yet perceived of me. I soon realize I've begun rubbing my arm out of anxiety. For all her praise, I still feel as if I'm telling a lie by omission. How would a mage react to finding the one before them is some regular person, mimicking their abilities through such methods? May I ask you a question on that topic? Feel free to not answer if you prefer. Go ahead. How old are you? I must admit, you seem young for a mage of this skill. The jump in topic forces me to think over the answer for a moment. I can't will myself to tell the truth when she gives such a convenient excuse not to. I turned 20 a few weeks ago, I think. So you haven't... She trails off before finishing her sentence, her expression concerned. I'm left at a loss for words, only growing worse as the spark of realization brightens her face. Yasue? Follow me, please. I promise I'll make it worth your while. Once again, I find myself working to catch up with the cheerful woman. Dim lamps struggle to illuminate the tables around us, the izakaya's air filled with the clatter of patrons and a heavy scent of tobacco. With liquor flowing freely and so many in that tight space, the air is taken on a distinctly muggy feel, many of the animated faces around us turning a flushed, bright red. My gaze rests on the waitresses skirting from table to table, dainty feet in sandals, tapping quickly to keep up with the pace of orders. It's a little uncanny. Everything about the experience is so close to a normal restaurant, yet just different enough to throw me off. As always, I do my best to avoid accidentally catching the eye of anyone in particular. Yasue does no such thing, instead looking at me with an indulgent smile. I'm not sure I understand. If this is for my birthday, it's really not a big deal. At this, Yasue makes a show of pouting. You never let me spoil you. I know your world has many lovely things, but I'd like to treat you at least once with what we have to offer. It's not like I mind, it's just... Old man, some local beer for this young lady, if you please. The man beyond the counter, as yet unseen, yells out his agreement in a hoarse voice. Wait, I'm still 20, I haven't even tried drinking yet. And what better time to try? I easily give up my protests in light of how happy she is to be treating me like this. I had been too shy to fumble my way through dealings with the bar, and I wouldn't know what alcohol would be good to start with in the first place. Our drinks arrive quickly, the old man, perhaps the owner, personally bringing the bottles and glasses to our table. Yasue doesn't even notice my confusion as she stops to pull out the cork in each. Even I know these usually have bottle caps. 40 sen, thank you. Yasue quickly obliges, passing him 2 odd silver coins. I've never even heard of sen as a currency before. Regardless, the man cheerfully takes them before hobbling off back past the curtains. I hadn't taken her for a beer drinker, but she's clearly looking forward to this more than I am as she gives me an eager smile. Trying to paper over my confusion, I quickly take one of the bottles in hand. Supporting it in one hand and tipping with the other, I gently pour the amber liquid into the cup, now held by my senior's delicate, spindly fingers. Yasue returns the gesture soon after, an inviting, thick, foamy head forming on the glass I cradle. The calmly bubbling beer gives off a floral scent, a sharp contrast to the mess of crimson which brought me here, the smell of blood now uncomfortably familiar. I peer over my drink to Yasue, her gaze patiently gauging my reaction. Perhaps it's my distrust of others, or my own anxieties causing me to overthink every gesture, but I find myself unable to plainly accept what should be a kind gesture. Is it really okay to treat me to all this? I feel like I've done nothing for you, but you keep treating me so nicely. You don't want to celebrate your birthday? No, it's not that at all. It's just... I had expected Yasue to defend herself. Instead, she stares at me intently, as if examining an interesting specimen before her. Maybe this is no different to how we've been interacting this whole time. Another of her elaborate plays, but this time without a script in hand. Each of us left to take our cues from the other, judging and moving in step with the other. As a particularly rowdy patron gives a boisterous laugh behind us, Yasue smiles and closes her eyes in defeat. Perhaps I've been coming on too strong. I apologize. I've spent so long without new company that I am slightly terrified that I might lose you at any moment. Of course she'd be scared. She's been sealed away for so long. Everyone here has been. That I'm important enough to Yasue for her to feel that way about me, even if it's only by circumstance, is oddly nice. It's been so long since I felt needed by someone. The least I can do is appreciate her generosity. Then I'll make you a promise. I'll always keep coming here. Then I'll make you a promise. I'll always keep coming here. And as often as I can, I mean that as a student as well. This world's practically a time capsule of history, after all. So please share this drink with me, not for my birthday, but to agree on that promise. Her smile is enough of an answer, this pent-up tension in my body releasing. An odd sense of purpose sparks inside me, the first I've perhaps felt in my life. With that, we both lift our glasses to our lips and take a long sip. In the end, I only had a few sips of the bitter stuff. Thankfully, Yasue, who was only too happy to oblige in drinking both of our bottles, and a couple more besides. It seems the taste of alcohol will take some getting used to. I had heard that drinking before evening is odd, let alone at noon. Yasue seems to hardly care though, her face now flushed, and gestures decidedly more animated. Of all the images I had of a lady from the Meiji era, the joyful, carousing woman skipping beside me isn't one of them. As she gives me a slightly uneven smile, I offer a polite bow. Thank you, Yasue. Today's been fun. Sorry for not having more. Drinking will take some building up to. If I can muster the courage to have another. I'd be delighted to join you if you do. Perhaps it's the drink or simple tiredness, but I find the corners of my mouth lifting, just a little. I wonder if the stupor will last in the real world, now that I think of it. The passing thought only reminds me of a greater lie. Perhaps it's genuine honesty after hearing her own, or the drink making me less inhibited, but I want to tell her the truth. Yasue, there's something I want to tell you. The reason I can't help you escape isn't just that I don't know how, it's... I'm not a mage, Yasue, not like you. I'm just another person. But if that's the case, how did you... As I glance about the people going about the day around us, Yasue senses my want for privacy. Come, follow me. After a fair hike well beyond the town's limits, we arrive at the edge of the forest surrounding Sapporo. There's a peaceful serenity to this place that I've yet to find in my own world. Please, tell me what's worrying you. Whatever it is, Onoka, I can accept it. The fact she cares should make me feel happy, but it stings my heart so. She doesn't know. She couldn't know. Taking a long breath to steady myself, I look down in shame and pull my left sleeve upwards, tug by tug. Before long, the bandages show. Their length chases further and further up my arm, as the beige gauze discolored by a blotch of bright scarlet. Fresh blood has pooled by now, the wound still proving sore as my sleeve drags over it. As I dare to look up at Yasue, the woman wears a mournful expression. It's striking compared to her gentle demeanor. What have you done to yourself? I'm not that sure of how it all works, to be honest. I found a book which someone wrote a long time ago about how a normal person could summon magic like a mage does by second nature. Somehow, I'm not sure of the mechanics, it lets me do things like this, but needs my blood to work. They called it blood magic in Italian, anyway. In response to my fast-paced explanation, her eyes close. I can see the gears turning inside, the connection between my general frailty and rapid exhaustion when visiting now plain. Honoka. I know what she's going to say next. Neither of us want to hear the words. It's not as if I'm dying or anything. It's hard on my body, I can admit that, but for this... Please, Yasue, I want to keep seeing you. She thinks for some time, before giving a heartbreaking smile of defeat. I can't very well force you to stop, can I? I'd rather she have scolded me. Without any further defiance to be made, I fall silent while looking at nothing in particular. Take care of yourself, Honoka. I'm glad to have met you. You have no idea how so, but please don't do anything that would risk your life. Do you understand? I understand. I'm sorry to have worried you so. As I scuff my feet on the grass in angst, I notice Yasue's shadow moving nearer. By the time I look back up, my body freezes at how close she's become. Without a word, she reaches out with those long, dainty fingers and grasps the corners of my glasses, subtly evening their position on my face. With that, Yasue steps back and smiles simply. That's what we elders are meant to do, silly. Her point made, Yasue's smile slowly wears off. The time to say goodbye draws near. When the next visit will be is difficult to say, but the fact it will come is certain. I'm not sure if it's imagined or not, but I feel Yasue is becoming more comfortable with that fact. Understandable, for a mage seeing their first visitor in 100 years. Take care, Honoka. Thanks. I'll see you again. My head presses to the hard wood beneath, its hard, cold surface rousing me. Blearily opening my eyes, I let myself stay in place as my senses slowly return to me. The smell of musty books, chalk, and blood plays on my nose, the scents making an unpleasant concoction. My body feels impossibly heavy. The stupor seems to be gone entirely, lost to the world I just left, but the experience of transference takes a heavy toll on my strength. Forcing myself to stand, I stagger to my feet, with a hand on my desk for support. I find myself unable to do anything but stand idle in the cold, empty room. My tired eyes stare blankly out the window, the moon's dim light reflecting off the bare branches of winter. Silence hangs in the air, moonlight illuminating notes of dust floating in the evening's darkness. My head feels empty, no matter how hard I try to form so much as a fleeting thought. Simple exhaustion, I tell myself. With little desire to do anything else, I begin the walk to the bathroom before settling in for the night. The floor still bears the scars of my work, the book which started it all lying open amid a disorganized desk. I'll get some cleaning supplies and wash off some of the mess, I think to myself. Sometime. There's that word again. That's brutal. Okay, and that's the end of the demo. Art is absolutely gorgeous. I know these guys are known for making good art. But wow. It's a good hook. I want to know the rest. I'm going to have to get it when it comes out. I don't know of a release date. I can check after, but yeah, this is interesting. For some reason, I thought this was vampires, which, I mean, come on. The names A Tithe and Blood and vampires are all the rage these days, but this is blood magic. That's not so common. Yuri blood magic visual novel. If I can't pitch you on anything, it's got to be that. Very interesting. Oh, there's somebody else. Yeah. Wow, there's a bar. Okay. Wow, it's happening. Okay. Well, that was pretty good, I gotta say. I love me some magic, man. I'm like moderately well versed in actual quote unquote real world magical stuff. Oh. Oh, is there more?